I'm going to make a lid for this box. The lid has a rim in it. So I'm going to heat this iron up to a polyester setting so that I don't melt the interfacing. I've already made the portion for the rim for the lid, and how I made it was using the Wonder Under. Again, my iron is melting it at a polyester setting. So I use the Wonder Under, and there's the Wonder Under, and I adhered it to one sheet of that Peltex, one thickness, and some quilting cotton. So what I'm doing now is I'm just putting a crease right in the center. This strip is 2 7/8 inches wide. I'm using steam, and I'll also use a tailor's clapper to get a nice sharp crease. Tailor's clapper is nice because it helps absorb some of the steam as well as reinforcing a nice sharp crease. So I'm going to serge the edge of the crease off just a little bit. There it is. Now I'm putting a seam down about a little past midway on the strip. It's just a straight stitch. If you're not using a serger, you can certainly finish that folded edge with just a zigzag stitch, satin stitch. Okay, so you'll understand how this rim works now. So I'm opening it up here. I'm going to be stitching along both sides that I'm flattening. You'll see. Just going along, working those stitches so that they open up a little bit. I don't want to steam it now. So it's got to go around that square. This is the base for the lid. Ordinarily, I would not have it completed with finished fabric on it. You just see the structural interfacing at this point. So to get around this corner, I have to do some clipping. The whole strip has to be clipped, but it's really important for the corners. So it doesn't matter if you're going around a circle or any other shape, you're going to have to clip it. If it's extremely curvy, you want to probably cut that strip on the bias. This one's going around a circle. You can see where I've joined it. It's not complete. There's more work that has to be done on it. But this is the structure of the rim itself. Here's another one. Same thing. So this is why you have to snip. And again, it's not finished, but the structure of the rim is attached to the base of the lid. All that gets covered up or satin stitched. And that gets an insert that covers up the inside of the lid. So it's pretty easy. It's fiddly, but it's doable. So now the snipping. I'm going to snip very close to that line of stitching. Not into it, but really close, because I want to really bend those snips. Really want to flatten them out. So I'll be stitching on both sides here. You'll see. But it does become flexible with your clips. Helps a lot to have nice sharp scissors so you can get very close to the line of stitching. Just try really hard not to cut into that stitching. So far, so good. Let's see about getting around these corners. Part of my fiddling at this point is just to get used to the feel of how these materials are responding to my touch. How hard do I have to push and pull? Is it firm enough? It seems to be. Do I have enough room? I seem to. So yeah, I've got some cutting to do. So I've got a longer strip than I need. I'm going to get rid of some of this, but I always leave myself extra because I don't trust written down measurements. Not with all this bulk and my irregular sewing. Yep, it seems like it wants to behave. So my hand is cramping. You're going to see me wiggling my fingers. I stop to work those cramps out. So I'm going to pin this on one time just to get an idea about how close to the edge I need to be. I may wind up having to repin it. I'd rather be safe than sorry because once I stitch this down, I am not going to want to rip the stitches out to move it. So this is tedious, but I would rather do this now just to make sure I get a good fit. Kind of like in dressmaking, if you're doing a muslin and you're doing a close fitting before you cut into your fancy fabric. So before I cut this, I'm going to fit it around these corners here. And again, it's to see how close to the cut edge of the lid base I'm pinning it to, how close I need to be to the edge to fit inside that square box. The lid is larger than the opening of the box. That's intentional. So you can get nice sharp corners. A little bit of an adjustment. That's all it needed. I know I should cut one of these extra lengths off at this point, but I'm not that confident. I want to make sure everything is going to lay evenly. And if one of these ends is behaving better than the other, I will take advantage of it before I cut it off. This seems to be pretty uniform though. I just don't want to do this twice. Again, this pinning is just to try to fit it into the opening to see how close to the edge I need to pin this. And get rid of some of this. Whoa. Huh. Almost ruined my scissors. There's a hidden pin in there. I'll have to take my scissors and sand that burr out of them. Put a little nick in them just now. So I'm just going to get this pin together just to check that opening. Mash all this excess out of the way till I'm feeling more confident, then I'll cut it off. Okay, let me get this a little bit tighter. Grab that box, and it's too big. I'm going to take it all apart, and I'm going to move it in just a bit, and it'll fit just fine. That's the only adjustment I need, just a bit. And again, before I stitch this down, I'm going to pin it down again and double check that fit. And if that's good, then I'll clamp it and sew it. But until I feel confident and see that it's fitting, I'm not going to stitch. These extra few minutes of fiddling are worth it. Make whatever snips you need to make to get this to go around your edge gracefully. It will behave, you just got to fiddle a little bit. A couple more pins and let's see if it fits. So for now, I'm just going to fold this up. Not quite ready to trim it yet. I want to get it into that box first before I trim it. Starting to look like this is going to work. Okay. Okay, this fitting will tell me what I need to know. Let me grab that box again. Boom. It fits. Yep. Okay. Now I can get on with the very tedious part. So I'll just be stitching all the way around, 2 lines of stitching. All good. So I'm going to mark it. I'm finally confident I will cut my excess off. I'm going to put a pin in here. I can barely see that mark. I'm going to make sure it's accurate. Okay, all done. And it's been trimmed. And now I'm going to just give it a nice zigzag stitch. I'm not overlapping these ends. I'm just butting them together. And I'll run 2 lines of zigzag stitching over the cut edges. If you butt them, you won't have a lot of bulk. If you overlap them, it's going to be bulky. Don't do that. Just widen your zigzag stitch so it catches a good bit of each cut side. So I'm just making my stitches a little wider to make sure that this stays together. Make one more pass. And that's it. Here's the join. Looks pretty good. Nice and sturdy. Obviously, you'd be using matching thread, but that's it. So now we'll pin this onto the base for the lid. And actually, pinning is not the ideal way. Um, those little plastic clips are really good for jobs like this. Like I would use a pin, but they're harder for me to slide in here. And this time I'm preparing it to be stitched. So I'm going to be more accurate than I was just to fit it. So I'm going to get a pin. Nah, not the best idea. Try it again. Nah. Like I said, those clips, they're pretty easy. So some of the bulk in the corners you're going to need to trim. And you'll be able to feel it. Make sure you pull out all the little pieces that are tucked under there and get a sharper corner or a smoother curve, whatever you're working on. Just be really consistent and tend to all those little clipped pieces. Get them pulled out. You can feel when you pull on those little tails, you can feel the seam line opening up, and that's what you want to do. You want this to be as flush as you can get it to that um, lid base. Just take your time, work your way around. You'll be making adjustments, pulling, prodding, trimming, pinching. It's fiddly, so you just keep fiddling until you get it where you want it. And I will try it in the box again before I start stitching, just just to make sure. Okay, let's check it out. Boom, it's on. So I feel comfortable getting the machine and stitching. Pretty good fit. Now I'm going to be stitching on either sides of those clipped edges. So I'm going to use a zipper foot. The zipper foot lets me get really close to that seam line. The zipper foot that I'm using came with this machine. You may have a different zipper foot, but they allow you to get really close to the edge. So I'm going to be sewing to the left of the zipper foot opening. So I'm going to sew outside of that rim first on the outside part of the seam line. No doubt you're going to see me twiddling my fingers around because this is really fiddly and sometimes it makes my fingers cramp up. Plus, I'm working in a really cold room. My hands are freezing. So I'm just going to do a straight stitch. Uh, Machine set at 2.5. Okay, so, oh, the battery's dead. Can't use that camera. Sorry about that. I wanted to show you a over my shoulder view. So you're just going to have to imagine you can see through my fingers right now. So that's the part that I've sewn. So the outside sewn. Now I'm going to sew inside that rim as close as I can get. Now, this is where all the bulk is, in those corners. But do the best I can. Now, this is just an ordinary domestic machine. It's not super powerful. So you will notice that when I'm going around the corners as I'm stitching, uh, you'll see me going really slowly. But now I'm just checking to make sure everything's in good shape before I commit. Again, no adjustments. Okay. I have to get a little bit of this out of here. So even on the outside, when I was stitching, as I was going around the corner, I did not use the foot pedal. I used the flywheel or the hand wheel on my machine for those stitches as I rounded the corner. You probably could see me fiddling a lot there. The reason I did that is because I don't want to break my hook. So I'd rather just be careful and turn slowly. So I'm going to just move this over one notch so I can do the inside rim. So now I'll be sewing to the right of the foot. So I need to move the needle over too. Had I not moved my needle over, I would have broken it because there's a metal strip down the middle of this foot. So it's all good now. Got to get my bobbin thread up. Okay, here goes. Inside. As close as I can get it. This stitching is going to look really untidy because this is just the base for your lid. Your finished lid might be the exact same size as this base, but it would go on top of this base. And on the inside, where you can see all these clipped edges, you're going to put an insert that goes edge to edge that covers all of that. And you can make that inside cover as plain or as fancy as you like, because as you can see, you have a little space in there. So when I get close to this corner, I'm going to stop with the foot pedal, and with my right hand, I'm going to turn that flywheel. And there I go. Yep. I'm just walking around that corner slowly. Also, another reason I'm turning that hand wheel so slowly is that I can feel the needle flexing, so that if it's not going into the hole the needle goes into smoothly. And if it's not flexing the right way, I stop and I raise the needle up and I'll fiddle and scoot this piece around a little bit and kind of experiment as I turn that hand wheel down. I can feel that needle piercing the cloth. And if I was using the foot pedal, I could not feel it. And in some of these corners, I could break it. Like right here, I didn't turn it very well as I was going around the corner. So I broke some thread, got a thread nest, just trim it off and put it back under there and keep sewing. Again, all of this stitching is not going to show. This is just to secure that rim onto the lid. And it's nice having this rim on here because the lid won't slide off. You could just put a flat piece on there if you wanted to, but it's going to slide off. So this keeps it anchored. Plus, it's a nice sewing technique to survive doing. It's so fiddly that when you get done, you're going to be so pleased. So again, here on the straightaway, use my foot pedal. Coming up to this corner, and as soon as I get to that bulk, here we go with the fiddling. Hand wheel, stitch, up and down. I'm feeling for how that needle pierces. If it doesn't seem like it wants to go there, then I'm going to shift it over until that needle comfortably slides in. Another thing about this that is a little difficult on a domestic machine is that all the tolerances are really tight on these things. There's a big screw coming out of the other side of the anchor for my presser foot that I had to keep bending that rim down to get around it. Okay, a little more fiddling. We're going to trim some of this off. Now, if you're making a lid like this whole underside here can be covered. You can cover a binding, a piece of fabric. You can start a strip right up there against the vertical part and wrap it around so that it goes over the top of the lid base. And so then that's all covered up. You can glue a covering on there. You could, it's up to you. But this can be trimmed very close. And I'm not doing a very nice job right now. I'm trying to hurry just so you can see the procedure. You're going to take your time and do a much better job than I'm doing. But like I said, you can absolutely cover the excess up with even a piece of covered cord. You have to get creative. You have to solve problems, and this is a problem to be solved. So we're getting there. And I know you'll do a better job trimming than I'm doing now. I have a need for speed right now. And like I said, that stitch wouldn't be showing on yours because you'd be putting your decorative portion of the lid on top of there. But check it out. It fits. Okay? Nice, huh? Like I said, once you get done with this, you're going to feel so good. So that's it. You can do it. Just remember, if your hands start getting tired, let them rest. If you're doing a circle, no problem. Oval, same procedure. And you can see with those two round lids that they are just structural interfacing, waiting for the decorative cover. Yep, you can do it. Just take your time. It's fiddly, but it's satisfying. Well worth it. And the clips absolutely make it a lot easier to put your connections together for sewing. Not so good for the fitting part, but for the sewing, they're great. So that's the lidded structure with a rim to keep your lid in place. This is not pretty looking, but you can definitely hook it up. Use your imagination, use your materials, and use your skill set. But you can definitely make all this look better. You could even choose to trim your rim so that it was right at the edge of the box. It's a decision for you to make. But I kind of like it hanging over a little bit. That way I can put danglies on it. That's it though. So thank you and good luck.